When your ambition becomes their punchline, make sure they choke on the ending. I spent 8 years building the campaigns that made other people famous until a single bathroom whisper, a junior strategist's selfie, and an $88 million corporate meltdown turned my quiet resilience into a loaded weapon. What started as office gossip became a storm no one saw coming until it was too late. They called me the wannabe influencer, the 40-year-old mom with a Toyota Corolla and delusions of relevance. They mocked my work ethic while stealing my ideas, dismissed my presence while profiting from my strategies. They never noticed when I stopped trying to be seen. They should have. My name is Alexis Palmer, and for 8 years, I was the best-kept secret at Brightwave Media. Every morning at 6:30 sharp, I'd slide into my cubicle on the 14th floor, laptop already warm from the train ride where I'd been drafting campaign concepts. While the C-suite executives rolled in around 9, I'd already have 3 pitch decks refined, 2 crisis communications strategies mapped out, and a complete content calendar that would eventually be presented in boardrooms I was never invited to enter. They called me the ghostwriter, not as a compliment, but as a dismissal, a background player, the woman who typed while others talked. I wrote the words that launched our biggest clients into viral fame, crafted the narratives that turned struggling brands into household names. The Meridian Hotel's rebrand that won 3 industry awards, my concept, my copy, my late nights, the Phoenix Athletics campaign that generated $42 million in revenue. I wrote every word while my daughter slept in the next room, her baby monitor glowing beside my laptop. But when the photographers came to capture the creative team, I was always mysteriously needed elsewhere, when Forbes did their profile on Brightwave's rising stars. My name appeared nowhere in the article, though my campaigns were quoted extensively. Jordan Reeves, our CMO, once introduced me at a client dinner as our execution specialist, as if I were merely the hands that typed, not the mind that conceived. I accepted it. For years, I accepted it. Single mother, 39 years old, driving a 2018 Toyota Corolla in a parking garage full of Teslas and BMWs. I had a daughter to feed, rent to pay, and a stability that freelancing could never guarantee. So I swallowed my pride with my morning coffee and built empires for other people to rule. Outside of Brightwave, I had my small rebellion at Laptop and Lace, my Instagram account where 49,000 followers watched me document the unglamorous reality of corporate motherhood. Nothing revolutionary, just honest snapshots of conference calls taken from preschool parking lots, strategy sessions interrupted by permission slips, the constant juggle between ambition and arithmetic homework. It wasn't much, but it was mine. My voice, unfiltered and uncredited. The shift began on a Tuesday in September. I was reviewing analytics in the small conference room, the one with the broken air conditioning that nobody important ever used when I heard it. The announcement echoed through the thin walls from the main boardroom. Brightwave had landed the Q4 mega campaign. $88 million, the biggest contract in company history. I waited for my phone to buzz, for someone to pull me into the planning session. I was the architect of 7 of our 10 most successful campaigns. My strategies had generated over $200 million in client revenue. Surely, for something this massive, they'd need nothing. Hours passed. I watched through the glass walls as the entire strategy team huddled in the main conference room, gesturing wildly at whiteboards, ordering catered lunch, popping champagne at 3 in the afternoon. Marcus, who'd been hired 6 months ago and still confused hashtags with metadata, was in there. Kelsey from HR, whose last creative contribution was suggesting we use synergy less in client presentations, had a seat at the table. But not me. At 5:45, as I packed my laptop bag, Jordan Reeves finally acknowledged my existence. He stopped by my desk, his Tom Ford suit immaculate as always, his smile practiced and empty. "Alexis, great work on the Morrison account wrap-up," he said, though I knew he hadn't read it. "Listen, we're going to need you to focus on maintaining our existing client relationships during Q4. The mega campaign is going to require our A-team to be fully dedicated." Our A-team, as if I hadn't been carrying this company's creative weight for the better part of a decade. "Of course," I replied, my voice steady as granite. "I understand." He patted my desk twice, the universal gesture of a conversation he considered closed, and walked away. I sat there for another moment, staring at my reflection in my darkened monitor. 39 years old, 8 years of invisible excellence, 49,000 Instagram followers who saw more value in my voice than my own company did. That night, I posted a simple image, my laptop, closed, sitting on my kitchen table beside a glass of wine and my daughter's colored pencil drawing of a superhero. The caption read, "Behind every successful campaign is someone whose name you'll never know." It got 12,000 likes overnight. I didn't know it then, but that post would be the first domino to fall. The Whisper Network revealed itself on a Thursday afternoon at 2:23 p.m. I was washing my hands in the executive floor bathroom, the nice one with the marble countertops and orchids that got replaced weekly. I rarely used it, but the printer on 14 was jammed again, and I'd come up to grab my reports from the C-suite assistant. That's when I heard them. "Did you see her latest post?" Kelsey's voice, pitched with that particular tone of malicious delight that HR professionals perfect when they're off the clock. The wannabe influencer is at it again. Laughter. Two other voices I recognized, Madison and Brittany, both junior strategists hired straight from their MBA programs 6 months ago, both making 70% of my salary. "She's what?" 40, Madison said, "with a kid at home and a Toyota Corolla in the garage, and she thinks she's going to be the next Harper Monroe." "Harper Lane," Brittany corrected. "Monroe is the makeup guru, Lane is the lifestyle one, 4.5 million followers." "Whatever," Kelsey continued. "The point is, it's embarrassing. Like, we get it. Alexis, you're a working mom. You balance things. Revolutionary content right there." I stood frozen behind the stall door, my hands still damp, watching water droplets fall into the basin like a countdown. "Jordan thinks it's becoming a liability." Kelsey lowered her voice, but the bathroom acoustics carried every word. "She's one viral complaint away from making the company look bad. You know how these bitter employees get when they don't get promoted." "Has she even been promoted once in 8 years?" Madison asked. "Why would she be?" Kelsey's heels clicked against the tile as she moved to the mirror. "She's support staff. Really good support staff. I'll give her that. But support staff doesn't get corner offices. They get steady paychecks and should be grateful for it." The door swooshed closed behind them. I stood there for another full minute, staring at my reflection in the mirror. Support staff. 8 years of building their success, and I was support staff. I walked out of that bathroom different. Not angry. Anger was too hot, too quick. What I felt was colder, more precise. It was the feeling of understanding, finally, that playing by their rules would never earn their respect. The shift in the office was immediate. Conversations stopped when I approached. Meeting invites that used to include me, just in case we need background, disappeared entirely. The small talk evaporated no more. "How's your daughter?" Or, "Saw your post about the coffee catastrophe. So relatable." Instead, there were whispers, glances, the particular silence that falls when the subject of gossip enters the room. They were isolating me, a corporate immune response to perceived threat. Friday morning, I found my desk had been moved. Not far, just 3 cubicles down, but now positioned where my screen faced the main walkway. Anyone passing could see what I was working on. The explanation. Delivered via email from facilities, workspace optimization for Q4 efficiency. The psychology was transparent. Make me visible to monitor me. Make me uncomfortable so I'd self-censor. Shut down my Instagram. Become invisible again. I smiled, opened my laptop, and posted a photo of my new view with the caption, "Funny how optimization always seems to optimize control." 20,000 likes in 3 hours. The comments section exploded with similar stories. Women sharing their experiences of being sidelined, silenced, strategically relocated. The hashtag #optimized out started trending in our industry circles. Monday brought a new development. I was excluded from the creative briefing for the Q4 mega campaign, the first major briefing I'd missed in 5 years. When I asked Marcus about it, he stammered something about streamlining the process and practically ran away. But I had my sources, Amy from accounting, who remembered when I'd covered for her during her divorce proceedings, Tom from IT, whose daughter I'd helped get an internship. They kept me informed, sent me screenshots, forwarded me emails by accident. The Q4 campaign was a disaster waiting to happen. They were targeting Gen Z with messaging that screamed millennial. They'd allocated $30 million to influencer partnerships, but hadn't secured a single major name. The creative direction was a recycled version of a campaign I'd killed 3 years ago for being tone deaf. I documented everything on @laptop in lace. Not explicitly, I was too smart for that, but posts about the importance of authentic voice in brand messaging and why generational marketing requires generational understanding started gaining traction. Marketing professionals were sharing my content, discussing it in LinkedIn posts, citing it in industry newsletters. Wednesday afternoon at 4:17, I overheard Kelsey on a call. "We need to do something about the Alexis situation. Her social media is becoming problematic." Problematic. I'd gone from invisible to problematic in less than 2 weeks. That night, I posted a video, just me, no filters, sitting at my kitchen table after my daughter had gone to bed. I talked about imposter syndrome, about being told you're support staff when you've been the backbone, about the difference between being seen and being witnessed. Some companies, I said, looking directly at the camera, ask for authenticity but punish you for having it. They want your ideas but not your identity, your labor but not your voice. The video hit 100,000 views overnight. And then, at 7:43 a.m. Thursday morning, a notification popped up that changed everything. At the Harper Lane liked your post. Harper Lane, 4.5 million followers. The exact influencer Brightwave was courting for the Q4 mega campaign. She didn't just like it. She commented, "This is the real content we need. Thank you for your honesty." My phone started buzzing. Screenshots flooded my DMs. Marketing Twitter exploded. And in the Brightwave offices, I could feel the tremor of panic beginning to spread. Harper Lane's comment was a match thrown into gasoline I didn't even know had been pooling. Within hours, my follower count jumped from 49,000 to 73,000. Marketing professionals, brand managers, other influencers, they flooded in to see what Harper had seen. The comment section under that video became a confession booth for corporate casualties, each story more damning than the last. But Harper didn't stop there. At 11:15 a.m., she posted a story, a screenshot of my video with text overlaid, "This is why I'm selective about brand partnerships. I want to work with companies that elevate voices like this, not silence them." She didn't name Brightwave. She didn't have to. Everyone in our industry knew exactly which $88 million campaign was currently courting her. My phone vibrated, a DM from Harper herself. "Hi, Alexis. I've been following your content for months. You probably don't know this, but your post about strategic invisibility saved me from a terrible brand deal last year. I'd love to learn more about your experience in the industry. Would you be open to a conversation?" I stared at the message for a full minute. Harper Lane wanted to talk to me, not to Brightwave, to me. "I'd be honored," I replied, "though I should mention I work for a company that's probably pitching you right now." "I know exactly where you work," she responded immediately. "That's partly why I want to talk." We moved to a video call that evening, after I'd put my daughter to bed. Harper was nothing like her polished Instagram presence. She was sharper, funnier, more cynical about the industry than her aspirational content suggested. "They've been bombing my inbox for weeks," she said, referring to Brightwave. "Promising me creative control, authentic partnership, all the buzzwords, but I did my research. 7 of their last 10 successful campaigns have your fingerprints all over them, even if your name appears nowhere." "How did you—" "I have a friend at Morrison Hotels. She told me who really wrote their rebrand. Then I started digging. You're like a ghost in the machine everywhere and nowhere at once." We talked for 2 hours about the industry, about authenticity, about what it meant to have your work stolen so consistently that theft became indistinguishable from collaboration. But more importantly, we talked about power. "They're offering me $5 million," Harper said, "to be the face of their Q4 campaign. That's life-changing money." It is. But you know what's more valuable? My credibility. If I take their money while they're actively suppressing their own talent, what does that say about my brand? I didn't suggest anything. I didn't have to. Harper was already 3 steps ahead. "Keep posting," she said before we hung up. "Be honest but not bitter, professional but not diplomatic, and document everything." The next morning, Brightwave went into crisis mode. Harper had posted another story, a simple black background with white text. "Before I partner with any brand, I ask one question. Do you treat your internal creators with the same dignity you expect from external ones?" Jordan called an emergency all hands at 10 a.m. I sat in the back, invisible as always, watching him sweat through his Tom Ford shirt. "It has come to our attention," he began, his voice tight, "that some external parties are making assumptions about our corporate culture based on incomplete information. I want to assure everyone that Brightwave values all team members equally." I almost laughed. Almost. "Furthermore," he continued, eyes scanning the room but never landing on me, "we encourage all employees to maintain professional boundaries between their personal social media presence and their role at the company. Any content that could be misconstrued as criticism of Brightwave's culture or practices should be carefully considered." The threat was clear. Shut up or face consequences. That afternoon, I transformed my content strategy. Instead of subtle observations about corporate culture, I pivoted to pure value delivery. I started sharing the actual strategies behind successful campaigns, not Brightwave's specifically, but the universal principles I'd learned over 8 years. How to identify authentic brand voice. Why demographic targeting fails without psychographic understanding. The difference between viral and valuable content. Each post was a masterclass, free education from someone who generated hundreds of millions in revenue. My followers ate it up. And Harper, she amplified everything. Every post got a share, a comment, a story mention. Our public conversation became required reading in marketing departments across the country. "Your approach to micro-influence mapping is brilliant," she commented on one post. "Is this what agencies are actually implementing, or is this your innovation?" "In my experience," I replied carefully, "innovation often comes from those closest to the work, not necessarily those closest to the client." The subtext was scalpel sharp. Everyone could read between the lines. By Friday, Adweek had picked up the story. The Instagram strategist causing waves, how @laptop in lace became marketing's most important voice. They didn't mention Brightwave by name, but they did note that rumors suggest a major agency may be reconsidering their Q4 strategy after their target influencer publicly aligned with an internal critic. My phone rang at 4:32 p.m. Jordan. "My office, now." I closed my laptop, touched up my lipstick, and prepared for war. The walk to his corner office had never felt longer. Every eye in the building tracked my movement. The Whisper network was in overdrive. Everyone knew something was about to break. I knocked once and entered. Jordan sat behind his massive desk. Kelsey from HR flanking him with a folder that undoubtedly contained my employment contract. "Sit," he said. I remained standing. "Alexis," he began, his tone attempting paternal disappointment. "We need to talk about your recent social media activity." "My personal social media activity," I corrected. "When you're identified as a Brightwave employee, nothing is purely personal." "Interesting, because when I generate millions in revenue, that seems to be purely Brightwave's. But when I share knowledge on Instagram, suddenly it's a shared liability." His jaw tightened. Kelsey shifted uncomfortably. "We're prepared to offer you a transition package," Kelsey interjected. 3-month severance, continued health benefits through the quarter. All we ask is that you sign a standard non-disparagement agreement." They wanted to buy my silence. 3 months of money for a lifetime of keeping quiet about 8 years of theft. I smiled. Not my polite, office smile. Something sharper. No, no, Jordan's voice cracked slightly on the single syllable. No, I repeated, savoring the word. I won't be signing anything, and I won't be transitioning anywhere. Kelsey opened her folder. Pulling out a document, I recognized the employee handbook. Alexis, we're trying to handle this professionally, but if you continue to damage Brightwave's reputation through your social media activities, we'll have no choice but to pursue disciplinary action. For what? Exactly. I leaned forward slightly. Sharing marketing insights, building my personal brand, having Harper Lane appreciate my content. Please, show me the policy violation. They exchanged glances. Kelsey flipped through pages, her manicured nails clicking against the paper. This isn't about policies, Jordan finally said, dropping the pretense. This is about loyalty. You're actively undermining an $88 million campaign. I'm posting about marketing strategies. If that undermines your campaign, perhaps the problem isn't my posts. His face flushed red. We made you, Alexis. Everything you know, every strategy you've developed, happened here, under our roof. Under your roof, yes, but not under your name. Or did you forget that my strategies, my words, my innovations have been presented as yours for 8 years? The silence stretched taut between us. Kelsey tried a different approach. What do you want? Alexis, a promotion. A raise. We can discuss. I want you to stop, I said simply. Stop pretending I'm the problem when your campaign is hemorrhaging credibility. Stop acting like my voice is a threat when it's the only authentic thing associated with this company right now. My phone buzzed. A text from Harper. Check your email. If you'll excuse me, I said, turning to leave. I have actual work to do. You know, the kind that generates revenue instead of just taking credit for it. I walked out, leaving them staring after me. Back at my desk, I opened Harper's email. Alexis, I wanted you to see this before I send it. You deserve to know what's coming. Attached was a draft email to Jordan, CCing the entire Brightwave board of directors. Dear Mr. Reeves, after careful consideration, I have concerns about moving forward with our proposed partnership. While Brightwave's portfolio is impressive, I've recently become aware of internal practices that conflict with my brand's values. Specifically, I'm troubled by reports of talented creators within your organization being systemically undervalued and silenced. My brand is built on authenticity and empowerment. I cannot, in good conscience, partner with an organization that appears to suppress these very values among its own team. I'm particularly concerned about the treatment of senior strategist Alexis Palmer, whose innovative approaches to brand storytelling align perfectly with what modern marketing needs. Yet I understand she's been excluded from the very campaign that would benefit most from her expertise. Before I make my final decision, I need to understand. Do you treat your internal creators with the same dignity you expect from external ones? I await your response. Harper Lane. My hands trembled slightly. This wasn't just support. This was a tactical nuclear strike on Brightwave's biggest deal. Send it, Harper texted. I thought about 8 years of invisibility, 8 years of watching my words in other people's mouths, 8 years of being called support staff while holding up the entire creative infrastructure. Your decision, I replied. But know that if you do, things will get complicated for me here. They already made it complicated for you. I'm just returning the favor. At 6:47 p.m., as I was packing up, every phone in the office started buzzing simultaneously. The email had landed. Jordan burst out of his office, his face the color of expensive burgundy. Conference room A, all senior staff, now. I wasn't invited, naturally, but I didn't need to be. Amy from accounting texted me play-by-play updates. Jordan screaming about containment. Legal says Harper's email doesn't violate any NDAs. CMO just asked who the hell Alexis Palmer is. Kelsey just said you're a situation that should have been handled weeks ago. Holy shit, the CEO just walked in. I drove home in my Toyota Corolla, listening to voicemails pile up. 3 from Jordan, 2 from Kelsey, 1 from Richard Brennan, the CEO himself. That night, I posted a simple image, a laptop reflecting a window. City lights blurred in the background. The caption read, "Authenticity isn't just a buzzword, it's a business imperative. Companies that suppress internal voices while amplifying external ones are building their brands on sand. Eventually, the tide comes in." Within an hour, Harper had shared it with a single comment, "This is why I make the choices I make." The marketing world exploded. Screenshots flooded Twitter. LinkedIn thought leaders wrote essays. The Hollywood Reporter picked it up. Instagram influencer threatens to walk from 88 miles. Deal over employee treatment. Saturday morning at 8 a.m. My doorbell rang. A courier held out an envelope marked "Confidential, Legal Documents." Inside was a voluntary alignment memo from Brightwave's legal department. They wanted me to sign an agreement limiting my social media activity to content that doesn't conflict with Brightwave's interests. The document was aggressive, threatening, and absolutely unenforceable, but it showed their desperation. I photographed the cover page, careful not to show the detailed contents, and posted it with a simple caption, "When your truth becomes their threat, you know you're onto something." The comments section turned into a legal education seminar. Employment lawyers offered pro bono consultations. Former Brightwave employees started sharing their own stories. The hashtag #alignmentmemo started trending. Gavin from compliance called me personally at 3:21 p.m. "Alexis, this has gotten out of hand. We need to have a conversation about mutual benefit." "Mutual benefit," I laughed. "That's a new phrase for damage control." "Harper Lane is reconsidering the entire partnership. Do you understand what that means? $88 million gone. Hundreds of jobs at risk." "Jobs were never at risk when you took credit for my work. Why are they suddenly at risk when I take credit for it myself?" He paused. "What do you want?" "I want Monday's meeting," I said. "The real one, with the board. Harper's email deserves a response, and that response should involve the person she specifically named." "That's irregular." "So is losing an $88 million deal because you tried to silence someone with 49,000 Instagram followers?" Another pause. "I'll see what I can do." Sunday night, Harper called me directly. "They're panicking," she said. "My management team has been fielding calls all weekend. They're offering to double my fee." 10 million. 10 million to pretend this never happened, to sign immediately and post something supportive about their company culture. "That's life-changing money, Harper." "It is," she agreed. "But you know what? So is integrity. And thanks to you, I remembered what that's worth." Monday arrived like a storm system everyone could see on the radar, but no one could stop. At 7 a.m., before the office even opened, Harper posted what would become the most shared marketing-related content of the quarter. It was a simple carousel. Slide 1. Why I choose my partnerships carefully. The following slides outlined her values: authenticity, equity, recognition, respect. The final slide was a screenshot of my Instagram profile with the text, "I stand with creators who stand in their truth, especially when it costs them everything." She tagged me. She tagged Brightwave. She set the internet on fire. By the time I walked into the office at 8:30 a.m., the atmosphere was electric with panic. People literally stopped mid-stride to stare as I passed. Conversations died. The elevator ride to 14 felt like ascending to an execution. But I'd dressed for war. My best blazer, the one I'd bought with my own money after the Morrison Hotel success, the success attributed to Jordan. My daughter had helped me pick my earrings that morning. "You look like a boss, Mom," she'd said. "The real kind, not the pretend kind." Gavin was waiting at my desk. "The board meeting is at 9, conference room A." The real board. Not just Jordan's damage control committee. Richard Brennan will be there, along with 3 board members who flew in last night. They'd flown in board members. The magnitude of what Harper and I had triggered was finally sinking in. Conference room A was the one with the glass walls, the one where everyone could see but not hear what was happening. As I entered, I counted the power players Richard Brennan, CEO, his silver hair and calculated calm masking. What I knew was fury. Jordan, wrinkled for the first time in my 8 years here, Kelsey from HR, armed with multiple folders, Gavin from legal, and 3 board members I recognized from annual reports including Sandra Williams, the only woman on the board and, notably, a former CMO herself. "Ms. Palmer," Richard began without preamble, "do you understand the situation you've created?" "I understand the situation you've created," I responded, taking a seat without being invited. "Would you like me to explain it to you?" Jordan started to speak, but Richard raised a hand, silencing him. "Please do." I pulled out my phone, opened Instagram. 4.5 million people are watching Harper Lane's partnership decisions. Another 2 million are following the hashtag discourse around authentic brand relationships. Marketing Week, Ad Week, The Drum, and Business Insider have all picked up the story. The question they're all asking isn't whether I deserved credit for my work, they've figured that out. The question is whether Brightwave's culture is so toxic that it's become a liability to its own success. "You orchestrated this," Jordan accused. I posted about marketing strategies on my personal Instagram. Harper Lane happened to appreciate authentic content. If that threatens an $88 million deal, what does that say about the deal? Sandra Williams leaned forward. "I've reviewed your personnel file, Ms. Palmer, 8 years, not a single promotion beyond cost of living adjustments. Yet your fingerprints are on every major win this company's had. Explain that to me." Jordan jumped in. "Alexis is a valuable team member, but she's support staff." "Support staff." Sandra's eyebrows rose. "Support staff that Harper Lane specifically named in her email. Support staff whose Instagram insights are being cited in business schools." "We've offered her packages," Kelsey interjected. "Severance, transition assistance." "You tried to buy my silence," I corrected. "After 8 years of stealing my voice, you wanted to pay me to never use it again." Richard's phone buzzed. He looked at it, his face paling slightly. "Harper's team just sent a formal notice. If we don't respond to her concerns by noon, she's walking." 3 hours. They had 3 hours to save $88 million. "What do you want?" Richard asked me directly. I'd thought about this moment all weekend. The dramatic demands I could make. The revenge I could exact. But sitting there, surrounded by people who'd made millions off my invisible labor, I realized what I actually wanted was simpler than they could imagine. "I want the truth," I said. "I want you to publicly acknowledge who actually created the campaigns that built this company's reputation. I want my name on my work." "That's complicated," Gavin said. "Legally, everything you created belongs to Brightwave." "Legally, yes, but ethically. Professionally, Harper Lane is asking if you treat internal creators with dignity. Here's your chance to answer." "If we acknowledge your contributions," Jordan said through gritted teeth, "every employee will want individual credit." "Only the ones who deserve it," I shot back. Sandra looked at Richard. "We have 2 hours and 45 minutes to save the biggest deal in company history. Ms. Palmer has Harper Lane's ear. The solution seems obvious." "We could offer her a director position," Kelsey suggested desperately. "Director of Brand Voice, retroactive recognition for her contributions." I almost laughed. They were offering me what I'd earned 5 years ago like it was a gift. "That's a start," I said. But Harper's question wasn't about titles. It was about dignity, respect, authentic recognition. You want to keep that 88 million, show her you understand what those words mean. Richard stood up. "We need to discuss this. Ms. Palmer, please wait outside." I left them in their glass box, their panic visible to the entire floor. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and started working on actual client deliverables. Even in the middle of corporate warfare, the work still needed to be done. Amy texted me. "They're arguing." Jordan just slammed his hand on the table. Tom from IT. Kelsey's crying, actually crying. Marcus, surprisingly, you're my hero. We all knew it was your work. At 11:15 a.m., 45 minutes before Harper's deadline, Gavin appeared at my desk. They're ready for you. I walked back into conference room A. The energy had shifted. Jordan wouldn't make eye contact. Kelsey looked defeated, but Sandra Williams was almost smiling. Richard spoke. Effective immediately. You're being promoted to Director of Brand Voice. Your salary will reflect 8 years of undervalued contributions. We'll be issuing a company-wide announcement acknowledging your role in our major campaigns. And, he paused, clearly choking on the words, we'll be implementing a creative attribution system going forward. It was everything. It was nothing. It was 8 years too late, and just in time. Send the announcement now, I said. Harper's deadline is in 45 minutes. We need to craft it carefully, Gavin started. I'll write it, I interrupted. Give me 10 minutes. I opened my laptop right there and typed, Brightwave Media announces the promotion of Alexis Palmer to Director of Brand Voice, recognizing her instrumental role in developing the strategic frameworks behind our most successful campaigns, including the Morrison Hotels rebrand, Phoenix Athletics partnership, and 7 other major client wins. This promotion reflects our commitment to recognizing and elevating internal talent. We apologize for the delay in acknowledging Ms. Palmer's contributions and are implementing systematic changes to ensure all creators receive appropriate recognition for their work. I turned the screen toward them. Send this to all staff and media contacts, now. Richard nodded to Kelsey, who pulled out her phone with shaking fingers. At 11:58 a.m., 2 minutes before the deadline, my phone buzzed. Harper. Just saw the announcement. We need to talk about Phase 2. Phase 2. She'd planned this all along. We both had. The announcement hit the company email at 12:01 p.m. By 12:05, my phone was vibrating itself off my desk. Congratulations poured in from colleagues who'd watched my work get stolen for years. Media requests flooded my LinkedIn, but the most important message came from Harper. Public and precise. Congratulations to @Laptop and Lace on your long overdue recognition at Brightwave Media. This is the kind of progress I want to see from potential partners. Looking forward to our meeting next week. Our meeting, not Brightwave's meeting, our meeting. Jordan's face went from red to purple. She's still considering walking. She's considering her options, I said calmly. The promotion was step 1. Step 2 is proving you mean it. What's step 2? Richard demanded. I smiled. That's what we're about to find out. That afternoon, Harper sent an email to Jordan. Me and the board. I appreciate Brightwave's quick action regarding Ms. Palmer. However, a press release doesn't erase 8 years of systematic undervaluation. I'd like to propose something unusual. I want Alexis Palmer to be the strategic lead on my campaign. Not support, not execution. Lead. If Brightwave truly values internal talent, prove it. Give her the authority to run an $88 million campaign. The conference room erupted. Absolutely not, Jordan shouted. She doesn't have the experience. I have 8 years of experience, I interrupted. You just never put my name on it. This is extortion, Kelsey added. This is business, Sandra Williams countered. Harper Lane is offering us a path forward, a very clear path. Richard looked at me. Could you handle it? I've been handling it, I said. The Morrison campaign that won 3 awards. I didn't just write it, I pitched it, developed it, and managed it while Jordan was in Cabo. The Phoenix Athletics deal, I saved it after the initial strategy failed. I've been running million-dollar campaigns from my cubicle for years. The only difference now would be having my name on the door. This is insane, Jordan muttered. This is accountability, Sandra shot back. Then, to me, what would you need? A team, my pick of junior strategists, the ones who actually understand digital culture, not just pretend to direct communication with Harper's team. And Jordan, I paused, savoring the moment, stays out of my way. You report to me, Jordan insisted. I report to the board, I countered. For this campaign, I report directly to Richard and Sandra. Non-negotiable. The room fell silent. $88 million hung in the balance, suspended on my terms. Richard's phone rang. He answered, listened, his face growing more concerned. That was Williams and Associates. They're reconsidering their partnership too. They want to know about our cultural evolution. The dominoes were falling. Harper hadn't just threatened one deal, she'd started an industry-wide conversation about creative attribution and corporate authenticity. Fine, Richard said. Ms. Palmer, you have the campaign. Jordan, you'll oversee other accounts during Q4. This is a mistake, Jordan warned. The mistake, Sandra said coldly, was letting this situation develop for 8 years. I stood up. I'll need to onboard my team immediately. Harper expects a preliminary strategy by Friday. That's 4 days, Kelsey protested. Then I better get started. I walked out of conference room A for the last time as support staff. When I returned, it would be as director of brand voice, strategic lead of the biggest campaign in company history. At my desk, I found Madison and Brittany, the junior strategists who'd mocked me in the bathroom, waiting nervously. We wanted to apologize, Madison started. We didn't know, Brittany added. You didn't want to know, I corrected. But here's your chance to learn. You're both on my team for the Harper campaign. Their eyes widened. Really? Really. But understand this. We're going to work harder than you've ever worked. We're going to create something genuine, something that doesn't insult our audience's intelligence. And when we succeed, your names will be on it. Your actual names, not hidden in footnotes. They nodded eagerly. Marcus approached hesitantly. Alexis, I knew it was your work. I should have said something. You should have, I agreed. But you can make up for it now. I need someone who actually understands data analytics, not just pretends to. You in? Absolutely. By 3 p.m., I'd assembled my team. 5 people who'd been underutilized, overlooked, or hired for their potential, then ignored. We took over conference room B, the one with working air conditioning, and I wrote our mission on the whiteboard. Make Harper Lane's partnership the most authentic collaboration in influencer marketing history. How, Madison asked. By doing something Brightwave's never done before, I said, telling the truth. That evening, I called Harper from my car, finally heading home at 8 p.m. How did it feel? She asked. Like justice, I admitted. Delayed, complicated, but still justice. It's not over, she warned. They'll try to sabotage you. Jordan won't go quietly. I know, but here's what they don't understand. I've been succeeding without resources, without recognition, without support for 8 years. Imagine what I can do with actual authority. Harper laughed. That's exactly what I told my management team. By the way, check your Instagram. I opened the app. My follower count had exploded 173,000. The comments under my latest post were overwhelming women sharing their stories, marketing professionals offering support, journalists requesting interviews. But one comment stood out, from a verified account I didn't recognize. As CEO of Morrison Hotels, I can confirm that Alexis Palmer was the architect of our rebrand. We asked Brightwave for her specifically on 3 subsequent campaigns and were told she was unavailable. Now we know why. Alexis, our next campaign is yours if you want it. The corporate leak had burst completely. 8 years of hidden work was flooding into the light. Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., I stood before my team in conference room B. We have 3 days to create a preliminary strategy that justifies $88 million and proves that authentic marketing beats manufactured messaging. Everyone ready? They nodded, energized by finally being part of something real. Good, because we're about to show them what happens when you stop silencing your talent and start amplifying it. On the whiteboard, I wrote our first principle, no more ghosts, every voice counts. The real work was just beginning. Tuesday through Thursday blurred together in a caffeine-fueled creative marathon that felt like vindication in real time. My team worked with an intensity I'd never seen at Brightwave. Madison pulled consumer insights that actually reflected how people talked, not how focus groups performed. Brittany identified micro-trends that Jordan's team had dismissed as too niche, but were actually driving culture. Marcus built data models that proved authentic engagement generated 3 times the ROI of manufactured virality. But the real breakthrough came Wednesday night at 10:47 p.m. We were exhausted, surrounded by empty coffee cups and strategy documents, when Tom from IT knocked on the conference room door. "Sorry to interrupt," he said nervously, "but I thought you should see this." He handed me a tablet showing Brightwave's internal Slack. Jordan had created a private channel called Damage Control with several senior executives. The messages were damning. "She'll crash and burn by Friday. Harper's just making a point. Once Palmer fails, we'll step in and save it. Keep documenting everything. When this goes south, we need a paper trail showing we warned them." They were actively hoping I'd fail. More than that, they were planning for it. "How did you—" I started to ask Tom. "You gave my daughter an internship reference when Jordan wouldn't even read her resume," he said simply. "It sees everything, Alexis, everything." I stared at the messages, feeling that cold clarity wash over me again. They wanted me to fail. They needed me to fail. Because if I succeeded, it would prove that their entire power structure was built on stolen talent and manufactured incompetence. "Can you send me screenshots?" I asked. Tom shook his head. "That would violate company policy, but—" he paused. "If someone happened to mention specific concerns in a public forum, and those concerns happened to align with internal discussions, well, that would just be coincidental." I understood. "Thank you, Tom." After he left, I gathered my exhausted team. "Change of plans," I announced. "We're not just creating a campaign, we're creating an insurance policy." "Against what?" Marcus asked. "Against sabotage." I pulled up Harper's Instagram. "We're going to document everything, every decision, every breakthrough, every moment of this process. Not internally, publicly. We're going to make this campaign's development so transparent that any attempt to undermine it will be instantly visible." "That's unprecedented," Brittany said. "So was promoting me to save a deal," I replied. "We're already in unprecedented territory." Thursday morning, I started posting behind-the-scenes content, photos of my team working, snippets of non-confidential strategy discussions, quotes from our planning sessions. Each post was carefully crafted to show progress without revealing proprietary information. Harper amplified everything, adding her own commentary. This is what real collaboration looks like. The marketing world was watching in real time. Adweek called it radical transparency in campaign development. The Drum ran a piece titled, "Is This the Future of Influencer Partnerships?" By Thursday afternoon, we had our strategy ready 24 hours early. But at 4:15 p.m., Jordan made his move. He called an emergency meeting with Richard and Sandra, claiming I was violating confidentiality protocols with my social media posts. I wasn't invited. But Sandra texted me directly. "Jordan's trying to kill your campaign. Get here now." I walked into Richard's office to find Jordan mid-presentation, showing my Instagram posts on his laptop. "She's revealing our strategic process," he argued. "Competitors can see exactly how we work." "They can see how I work," I corrected, entering uninvited. "After 8 years of hiding it, yes, I'm showing them exactly how I work." "This is insubordination," Jordan snapped. "This is innovation," Sandra countered. "Her transparency is generating more positive PR than we've had in years." Richard looked tired. "Ms. Palmer, is your strategy ready?" "Yes, 24 hours early." "That's impossible," Jordan interjected. "A proper campaign strategy takes weeks." "When you're not actually doing the work—" "Sure," I said. "When you're not padding it with meaningless meetings and redundant approvals, it takes exactly as long as it should." "Let's see it," Richard said. I pulled out my laptop, connected it to his screen, and began. The strategy was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of Harper being the face of Brightwave's client's product, She would be the curator of authentic stories from real users. We'd find unknown creators whose lives had been genuinely impacted by the brand, amplify their voices, and let Harper facilitate conversations rather than manufacture them. The budget allocation, I continued, shifts from traditional advertising to creator compensation. We're not buying influence, we're investing in authenticity. This is completely unconventional, Jordan protested. Harper Lane has 4.5 million followers because she's unconventional, I shot back. She agreed to this partnership because we promised something different. This is different. Sandra was smiling now. Show this to Harper. Tomorrow, as planned. But Jordan started. Jordan, Richard said firmly. You had 8 years to develop innovative strategies. Let's see what someone else can do with 8 days. I gathered my materials, paused at the door. Oh, Jordan. That private Slack channel you created, the one where you're documenting my expected failure, you might want to reconsider that strategy. Documentation works both ways. His face went white. How did you... The same way I learned everything else around here, I said. By paying attention to the work instead of the politics. Friday morning arrived with the kind of nervous energy that preceded either triumph or disaster. Harper arrived at Brightwave at 10 a.m. sharp, her team of 3 in tow. She walked past Jordan's extended hand and hugged me instead. Show me what you've got, she said. We presented for 90 minutes. My team handled their sections flawlessly. Madison on audience insights, Brittany on trend integration, Marcus on data projections. I tied it all together with a narrative about moving from manufactured influence to facilitated authenticity. When we finished, Harper's manager spoke first. This isn't what we expected. My heart sank. It's better, he continued. It's actually revolutionary. Harper stood up, walked to our whiteboard where I'd written our principles. She picked up a marker and added one more line. Make them choke on the ending. When do we start? She asked. Monday, if you're ready. I've been ready for years, she said, looking directly at Jordan. I was just waiting for Brightwave to catch up. The contracts were signed that afternoon. $88 million, committed to a campaign designed by the woman they'd called support staff 2 weeks ago. But the real victory came in a quieter moment. As Harper was leaving, she stopped by my desk, my old desk in the cubicle farm, which I hadn't moved from yet. You know you've won, right? She said quietly. Not just the campaign, the war. I looked around at my colleagues, some celebrating, others studying our strategy. Jordan clearing out his office after being reassigned to special projects. I know, I said, but this isn't about winning, it's about finally being visible. Harper smiled. Oh, you're visible now. The question is, what are you going to do with all that light? I thought about my daughter, about the 8 years of shadows, about every woman who'd messaged me sharing their own stories of professional invisibility. Shine it on others, I said. The campaign launched Monday morning at 9 a.m. sharp with Harper's post a black screen, white text, 5 words that would define everything that followed. Your story deserves a name. Within the first hour, we received 12,000 submissions from real users sharing how they'd been impacted by our clients' products, not testimonials, but actual stories. Stories with names, faces, struggles, and triumphs. The kind of authenticity Jordan's focus groups could never manufacture. By Wednesday, 3 of those stories had gone viral, not because we pushed them, but because Harper knew how to identify and amplify truth. She interviewed a teacher from Detroit who'd used the product to transform her classroom, a startup founder from Vietnam who'd built a business around it, a grandfather from Ireland who'd connected with his grandchildren through it. Real people, real names, real impact. The numbers were staggering. Engagement rates hit 37%, industry standard was 2%. Conversion tracked at rates that made Richard call me personally at 11 p.m. Thursday night. Whatever you're doing, don't stop, he said, and I could hear something in his voice I'd never heard before: respect. 2 weeks in, the unthinkable happened. Jordan resigned, no announcement. No farewell party. Just an email Friday afternoon at 4:37 p.m. Pursuing other opportunities, the Slack channel Tom had shown me disappeared. The Whisper network went silent. Kelsey from HR approached me the following Monday, holding a folder that looked very different from the one she'd brought to my termination meeting. "The board wants to discuss your future," she said carefully. "Your permanent future." The meeting was nothing like the confrontation from weeks earlier. Sandra Williams led it, with Richard and 2 other board members I'd never met. "The Harper Lane campaign is already exceeding projections by 300%, Sandra began. "But more importantly, the cultural shift you've initiated has attracted 7 new clients who specifically want the Alexis Palmer approach." The Alexis Palmer approach, my name had become a methodology. "We're prepared to offer you the position of Chief Creative Officer," Richard said. "Jordan's position, but restructured. You'd have full autonomy over creative direction, team building, and strategic partnerships." I thought about the 8 years of invisibility, the bathroom mockery, the stolen ideas, the Toyota Corolla they'd sneered at. "I'll take it," I said, "on 3 conditions." Richard's eye twitched, but he nodded for me to continue. "First, the creative attribution system becomes mandatory, not optional. Every contributor gets credit. Second, my team from the Harper campaign becomes the senior strategy team. They've earned it. And third," I paused, savoring the moment, "I want Jordan's office." Sandra actually laughed. "Done." I moved into the corner office on a Tuesday, the one with the view of the city, the one where Jordan had made countless decisions about my work without my input. I kept very little of his furniture, but I did keep one thing, the nameplate from his door. I hung it on my wall, face down, a reminder of how power can shift when truth finally speaks. Harper's campaign concluded after 3 months with 800% ROI. It became a Harvard Business School case study. Adweek called it the campaign that changed marketing. But the real success wasn't in the numbers. It was in the emails, hundreds of them, from women who'd been invisible in their own offices, who'd watched their ideas walk into rooms they couldn't enter. They'd seen what happened when someone finally said no more. 6 months later, at an industry conference, I delivered a keynote about authentic marketing. The room was packed. In the front row sat Madison and Brittany, now running their own accounts. Marcus had been poached by Google. Tom from IT had become our chief digital security officer because loyalty, I'd learned, was worth more than any resume. During the Q&A, someone asked the question I'd been waiting for. How did you stand it for 8 years? The invisibility. I thought about my daughter, now 13, who'd watched me transform from someone who accepted silence to someone who demanded recognition. I thought about the Toyota Corolla I still drove, not because I had to anymore, but because it reminded me where I came from. "I was never invisible," I said. "They just chose not to see me. There's a difference, and when someone chooses not to see you, you have 2 options: fade away, or shine so bright they have no choice but to look." The room erupted in applause. Later that evening, I posted on @LaptopInLace, now at 2.3 million followers, a simple photo of my new office at sunset. Laptop open, coffee cold, the city lights beginning to twinkle. The caption read, "Some companies ask for authenticity, but blacklist you for having it, until one day, authenticity becomes the only currency that matters." To everyone who's been called support staff while supporting an entire organization, your time is coming. Make sure when it does, they choke on the ending. Harper commented within minutes, "They never saw it coming, but we did." Jordan never worked in marketing again. Last I heard, he was teaching traditional brand management at a community college in Wisconsin. His students, I'm told, have no idea why their professor flinches whenever someone mentions Instagram. The $88 million campaign became $150 million in renewed contracts. Brightwave's valuation doubled, and somewhere in a bathroom on the 14th floor, no one would ever again mistake ambition for delusion. Because when your work ethic becomes their punchline, you don't just prove them wrong, you make them irrelevant. My name is Alexis Palmer. I am 40 years old. I drive a Toyota Corolla. I have one daughter, 2.3 million followers, and after 8 years of being everybody's ghostwriter, I finally own my own story. And that story, it has my name on it. Thank you so much for listening to this story of corporate revenge and vindication. I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from right now. Drop a comment and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your own thoughts about workplace invisibility and recognition. Have you ever felt undervalued at work? What's your story? Let's discuss in the comments below.